Hey guys, it's Bear here, Return to Preparedness, helping you prepare not for your doomsday, but your everyday. In this week's condensed video version of the podcast, I'm not actually going to go over what we did in the podcast, due to the fact that the podcast was on EDC, Everyday Carry, and I've already done a video on that last year, and my EDC really hasn't changed much. So if you'd like to see that, I'll leave a link in one of these corners here, I'm not sure which one, but just hit the little eye and it'll take you to that video. I'm actually going to go over a previous podcast I had done where I began a series called No Vote November. And I'll explain to you what No Vote November is and explain to you why I feel we should all be not partaking in the voting process that is going on as it stands. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but in this series, I think if you go back and listen, if you haven't already listened to these podcasts, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from and probably kind of understand that, maybe I'm not that far off, and we need to do something to make a change to our government, and voting in a new clown to the circus is not changing anything. All right, let's sit down and be real. The next new guy that comes in has not done anything different than the previous guy who just left. No matter what side you're on, they're not actually playing for your side, they're playing for themselves. Okay? And that's the fact of the matter. And we've given them too much control. We let them take in too much of our freedoms and liberties and claim that they're giving stuff to us. No, it's our right. All they're doing is taking from us. And so we need to understand that first. So before you get on here and start all the hate and, telling me how it's, my right to vote and I need to get out there and exercise my right to vote. No, I'm going to exercise my right not to vote. Just as well as it's my right to vote for who I want, it's my right to not partake in the lunacy and idiocracy that is our federal government and what takes place. Okay, and this whole voting process and bringing in the same old retreads and not seeing change. And in the series, this podcast series that I'm doing, I'm going through different government programs and showing you examples of how they're failing and how private industry is actually doing it better. And just to show you that we don't actually need government, and relying on the government to take care of us and provide us with these programs is foolish of us. And what we need to be doing as a people is stepping up and saying, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And to me, one way to do that is not to vote. And if we get all of us, I know it's never going to happen, but it's just, voting isn't changing anything. So not voting is a way to just remove ourselves. Okay? And if everybody starts removing themselves, and we start to see, you can voice your opinion and they don't care. So something needs to change. And unless it's an all-out civil uprising, this is my idea of the most productive way. Okay, so in the first podcast of the series, and let me take a look at my phone here because I'm going to tell you what podcast number it was if you'd like to go back and listen. Podcast number 14. Podcast 14, episode 14, was the very first edition of the No Vote November series. So you can go right to the website and you can search for that, or you can go, they're all listed by podcast. You can go on there and you can find number 14. In that one, I talked about the United States Postal Service and how the USPS is actually supposed to be the one government program that is solely funded through its own sales, and how it actually has been getting government funding for years, even though when it was set up, it was never supposed to happen. Okay, that government program was specifically solely supposed to be off its own merits. It would function strictly off of the sales of stamps and shipping and anything else that it could drum up for business. Okay, so it was supposed to, off its own profits, its own money, it was supposed to function. And it hasn't. And we've been giving tax dollars to the United States Postal Service to keep it afloat for many years. Many years now. And it's absurd that we continue to do this. And yet you have FedEx and UPS and, DHL and these other companies that are operating at a profit and doing it better. You know, I mean, they're obviously doing it better because they're doing it more efficiently to where they can operate off a profit. You know, I mean, and the postal service has had to come up with, you know, all these crazy things like these boxes that you could fit anything in there, it'll ship at this one flat rate price to try and drum up business, you know. And they come up with these specialty stamps for collectors to try and you know, drum up business, because the way that they're operating as anything the federal government touches is costing more and more money, and it's not efficient. And so there is one prime example of a program, a government program, a government, you know, entity that does not need to exist, and private industry is doing it so much better. And it's proven. There's a track record, right? FedEx, UPS, DHL, and there's, you know, whether you got, you know, Sir Speedy we have around here, which is a smaller delivery company, or, you know, I mean, you name it. There could be an Uber. Look at what Amazon's doing. Amazon's hiring people to pick up stuff and drive it to houses, you know, for their Prime shipping and stuff. You can just, you know, you go to like Walmart, where they are storing stuff now, apparently, which is crazy. So they're renting storage place in Walmart, and then you go there and pick it up, and then you just drop it to somebody's house. And now they're doing it without even having to do UPS, FedEx, or, you know, the United States or the Postal Service, you know. So there are ways around it, and there are ways to do it better, and yet we're wasting our tax dollars funding this program. And I understand that it's a lot of jobs, and I understand that there's a lot of people who have, you know, are government employees and have relied on this job and this income. You know, and the truth is if they're good employees, they should have no problem getting a job at UPS or FedEx or somewhere else. All right, if they have a background in like their postal service, right, shipping and receiving and all that kind of stuff, they'd have no problem getting a job somewhere else if they're a worthwhile employee. The fact is that a lot of government employees are not worthwhile employees, and it's next to impossible to get fired from these jobs. All right, and once you have these jobs, you get in there, and, you know, I'm not gonna bag on unions at this time, but, you know, these are the government jobs that people have, and they get in, and once you're in there for so long, and you just kind of slide by and just doing the minimum and expecting more and more and more, you know, and then they get these pensions, and these pensions never run out, and that's great. But when it's government, when it's supposed to be funded through sales, right, and savings from the United States Postal Service, and yet tax dollars are going towards it, that's where I have the issue. All right, that's where I have an issue. It's a waste of tax dollars, right? Because I guarantee you that if mail delivery is profitable, and there's a way to make it profitable, which I know there is. Somebody can figure it. I haven't taken the time to figure it out, but I guarantee you it can be figured out. Okay? UPS or FedEx would be fighting each other to be able to take that over. Guarantee you they'd be fighting to try and take that over, or somebody else would come in and try and take it over. You know, maybe DHL would come in and scoop that up, and then they would be the mail delivery, since they're kind of the third wheel when it comes to, you know, package delivery and shipping. So there are other ways that we can get our mail, and how many people, you know, I mean, so much is done online now that you could really minimize mail altogether. Because I tell you what, I get more junk emails than I do junk mail, you know, and bills, all that can be taken care of online nowadays. In fact, almost all of it is. So we don't even need the mail service. You know, if you want to send Christmas cards, send e-cards. You know, I don't know what to tell you. I'm giving you an example of a government agency that is failing and being held up through tax dollars. And we continue to sit here and just let that slide and let that get by. And it makes zero sense to me. And if you can tell me one valid reason that we need the United States Postal Service, aside from the fact that people would lose their jobs, Because I've already told you that if they're a worthwhile employee, they will get a job at UPS or FedEx, or if they've got any sort of history in shipping and receiving or delivery, if they're a driver or whatever, they will get a job. And if it's a mail carrier, whoever takes over the daily mail delivery, I guarantee you would hire these people to deliver for them if they are a worthwhile employee. So you tell me one good reason that we need to keep the United States Postal Service. I'll wait. Leave a comment below. One valid reason why we need to keep the United States Postal Service. Yep, you got nothing. You've got there is no reason. It's a waste of money. And if it was solely funded off of its own profits, I would have no issue with it, but it's not. It's supposed to be, but it's not. It's funded, its shortfalls are funded through our tax dollars. We continue to give them a ton of money just to keep them afloat. All right, I think I've beat that up enough, but that's kind of where I'm going with this series, and I'm going to continue to do it every so often, and as we get closer to election time, I'll probably bump it up a little more, but I'm going to step through different government agencies, different government programs that are being funded through tax dollars, that are a waste of tax dollars, that private industry continues to do better, and show you that there is not a need for this government. All right, with that, this has been Bear with Journey to Preparedness, helping you prepare not only for your doomsday, but your everyday. Peace.